Have you ever wondered what it means to find your own truth? Not the truth that others give you, not the rules written in a book, but the truth that lives deep inside your own heart. It is a question we all face, sooner or later. It calls to us in quiet moments. It whispers to us on the wind. For some, the answer comes slowly, like the turning of seasons. For others, it arrives like a sudden storm, changing everything in an instant. This is a story about that kind of storm. It is a story about a journey that changes a life forever, a journey across a vast and dangerous ocean. This voyage is more than just a trip from one continent to another. It is a passage from one life into a completely new one. Imagine leaving everything you have ever known behind, your family, your home, your perfectly arranged world. You are told who to be, how to act, and what to believe. But what happens when that world is ripped away? What happens when the only thing you can hold on to is yourself? This is the story of a young girl who must answer these questions. She must discover a strength she never knew she had. She must find a voice she never knew she could use. Her name is Charlotte Doyle. When we first meet her, she is a proper young lady. She follows the rules. She does what is expected. Her path seems clear, laid out for her by her family and her station in life. But the sea does not care for such plans. The ocean has its own rules, its own power. It tests everyone who dares to cross it. It strips away titles and expectations, leaving only the core of who a person is. Charlotte is about to face the greatest test of her life. She thinks she is simply sailing home, but she is really sailing toward her true self. Join us on this incredible voyage. We will travel back to a time of tall ships and great adventures. We will feel the spray of the sea and hear the creak of the rigging. We will witness courage in the face of fear. We will see how one person's choice can change the destiny of many. This is more than just a tale of mutiny and mystery on the high seas. It is a timeless story about growing up, about challenging authority, and about choosing your own path. Are you ready to set sail? The journey is about to begin. The year is 1832. Liverpool's air is thick with coal smoke. On the docks, the world feels alive. Towering ships reach for the sky, gateways to new lands. It is here that our story begins, with a 13-year-old girl. Dressed in fine clothes, she is preparing to cross the Atlantic to rejoin her family in America. Charlotte Doyle has been raised to be a lady, her life governed by strict rules. Her father, a man of business, has arranged her passage on the Seahawk. To Charlotte, this journey is simply a duty. She believes in the world her father has built, but the world of the Seahawk is different. As she stands on the dock, she is on the edge of two worlds. Once she steps aboard, there will be no turning back. This is the story of her transformation, how a girl found the strength to command her own destiny. Charlotte Doyle's world was structured by her family's high standing in society. In 1832, a young lady of her class was to be refined, educated, and obedient. Her days were filled with lessons and proper etiquette. Her father, a successful cotton manufacturer, valued order above all. This journey was part of his plan for her life, crossing the ocean after a term at the Barrington School for Better Girls. Her trunk held starched dresses and expectations. Leaving Liverpool, she carried her family's name and her father's instructions, be a model of decorum. Two families were to accompany her, but they canceled. Charlotte was alone, about to board a ship crewed by rough men. A lady doesn't show fear or question her father. Clutching her journal, she resolved to be the daughter her father expected. She would be brave and proper, unaware that the home she sailed toward was not the one she left. The Seahawk was not a welcoming sight. It loomed over the dock, ancient and brooding. Its figurehead seemed to glare down with a silent, menacing warning. As the porters caught sight of the ship, they stopped dead, fear crossing their faces. They spoke in hushed, urgent tones, mentioning a name, Captain Jaggery. With hurried apologies, they set down her luggage and refused to go a single step further, leaving her alone. Charlotte was left with a choice: turn back or press on. She approached the ship herself. Mr. Keach greeted her, seeming shocked to see a young girl intending to sail with them. He warned her the ship was not fit for a young lady, pleading for her to reconsider. But where could she go? The Seahawk was her only appointed path home. She insisted on boarding. Reluctantly, Mr. Keach led her aboard. The ship felt like a labyrinth of shadows. The crewmen she glimpsed were a frightening collection of weathered faces. Charlotte felt like an intruder. The journey had barely begun and she was already desperately alone. Just when her fear threatened to overwhelm her, a figure of authority appeared. Captain Andrew Jaggery emerged from his cabin, and he was everything Charlotte had been taught to respect. He He was impeccably dressed in a fine coat, his boots polished to a brilliant shine. His hair was neat, and his posture was ramrod straight. He spoke with a clear, educated voice that cut through the grim atmosphere of the ship like a ray of light. He was, in short, a perfect gentleman. He seemed to be an island of civility in a sea of coarseness. Charlotte felt a wave of relief wash over her. Here was the order she understood. Here was the world she knew. Captain Jaggery was immediately apologetic and kind. He expressed his profound regret that the other families had canceled their plans and that she was forced to travel alone. He spoke of her father with great respect, assuring her that as the owner's daughter, she would be treated with the utmost care and protection. He promised her a comfortable journey and insisted she dine with him every evening. He called her Miss Doyle, a title of respect that felt like a shield against the crew's silent hostility. He was the captain. He was in charge. With him present, surely nothing could go truly wrong. He represented the familiar world of rules and decency. He showed her to her cabin, a small, dark, and stuffy space that was far from the luxurious quarters she had imagined. But the captain's reassurances made it seem more bearable. He dismissed the crew's rough appearance as typical for simple sailors. He explained that a ship required a firm hand and that his men, while unrefined, understood the meaning of discipline. He presented himself as her guardian, a protector who would stand between her and any potential unpleasantness. Charlotte, desperate for an ally, clung to his words. She chose to see him as a savior, a gentleman who would maintain order on this chaotic vessel. This initial impression was powerful. It set up a clear dynamic in Charlotte's mind. On one side was the rude, intimidating crew. On the other was the polished, well-spoken Captain Jaggery. She knew whose side she was supposed to be on. It was the side of her class, her upbringing, her father. The captain was like a figure from her life back home, a man of power and respectability. She trusted him completely. This trust would become the anchor for her first critical decisions on the Seahawk. She could not yet see the coldness behind his polite smile or the iron fist hidden inside his velvet glove. As Charlotte settled into her cabin, she was visited by Zachariah, the ship's cook. He offered her friendship, unlike the other crewmen. Then he gave her a dirk, a small knife with a bone handle. He warned her the ship was a dangerous place and insisted she take it for protection, cautioning her to be wary of Captain Jaggery. She hid the dirk, ashamed, yet unable to discard it. Who should she trust? The Seahawk had set sail, carrying her deeper into a brewing storm. The first days at sea were lonely for Charlotte. The vast ocean mirrored the isolation she felt on the Seahawk. Her only contact was with Captain Jaggery, with whom she took meals. He treated her with courtesy, telling stories of the sea. He reinforced that he was a man of principle. He encouraged her to be his eyes and ears, subtly recruiting her as his informant. Away from the captain's table, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The crew moved with a grim silence, avoiding her eyes. She saw men gathering in shadowy corners, their voices low and urgent. When they saw her, they would fall silent and disperse. These felt like secret meetings. Her attempts to be polite were met with cold indifference. They saw her as an extension of the captain. Only Zachariah showed her kindness. He would slip her a sweet biscuit, small gestures of humanity. His watchful eyes told her the warning still stood. The ship seemed alive with secrets. The wind seemed to carry fragments of angry conversations. In the gloom, she saw faces staring, their expressions a mixture of anger and despair. It was a world of simmering rebellion. Charlotte felt trapped. She was a passenger in a floating prison where a silent war was being waged. The mystery took shape when Charlotte stumbled upon a secret meeting. Sailors, including Mr. Hollybrass, gathered around a lantern. One held a pistol. They examined a document with names in a circle. It was clear. The crew was planning a mutiny. Zachariah explained it was a round robin, protecting them from blame. The crew were desperate men, pushed by Captain Jaggery's cruelty. He was a potential tyrant, and they sought justice. Charlotte held the ship's fate. Silence meant mutiny. Telling meant betrayal. The proper lady screamed for order, but a new part hesitated. The weight of the secret was crushing. Charlotte could barely eat or sleep. Every creak of the ship, every shout from a sailor made her jump. The image of the pistol and the round robin was burned into her mind. She was caught in an impossible position. To her, mutiny was a terrible crime, a complete breakdown of the natural order of things. Her entire upbringing had taught her that authority, especially the authority represented by a man like Captain Jaggery, was absolute and must be obeyed. She saw the crew's plan not as a quest for justice, but as a dangerous plot that threatened everyone on board, including herself. She thought of her father. What would he expect her to do? The answer was painfully clear. He would expect her to report the planned insurrection immediately. Captain Jaggery had positioned himself as her protector, her guardian on this perilous journey. In her mind, loyalty to him was loyalty to the safe, structured world she came from. The crew remained a frightening alien force. Despite Zachariah's explanations, she could not bring herself to trust these rough, angry men over the polished, well-spoken gentlemen who reminded her so much of the men in her own family. Her fear ultimately overpowered her sympathy. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, she made her way to the captain's cabin. Each step felt like a betrayal, but she pushed down the feeling of guilt, telling herself she was doing the right thing. She was choosing order over chaos. She was choosing safety over danger. When she knocked on his door, Captain Jaggery welcomed her in with his usual polite smile. He listened intently as she recounted everything she had seen and heard. The secret meeting, the pistol, the round robin. She watched as his calm demeanor slowly hardened. His eyes grew cold, and the pleasant smile vanished, replaced by a thin, hard line. He praised her for her courage and her loyalty. He called her a true lady of quality and reassured her that she had done exactly the right thing. But as he spoke, Charlotte felt a growing sense of dread. The look on his face was not one of a man restoring order, but of a man relishing the opportunity to exert his power. She had handed him the weapon he needed to crush the crew's spirit completely. In that moment, she realized she had not simply reported a crime. She had lit the fuse on a powder keg, and she had no idea how devastating the explosion would be. Captain Jaggery stormed onto the deck, ordering all hands to assemble. The crew gathered, knowing they'd been discovered and betrayed. Charlotte watched, her stomach churning with guilt as their eyes landed on her. She was now a spy in their eyes. Jaggery demanded the ringleader. When no one spoke, he declared one would be punished for all. His eyes settled on Zachariah. Jaggery was sending a brutal message. He dragged the old sailor forward, accusing him of arming the mutiny. The punishment, 50 lashes. A gasp went through the crew. The lash cut through the air. Charlotte screamed, realizing she had unleashed this horror. As they committed his body to the deep, fear was replaced by hatred. She was utterly alone, tied to a monstrous captain. The price of her choice was Zachariah's life. The sea that swallowed Zachariah seemed to swallow Charlotte's old self too. The world was no longer black and white. Charlotte was lost in a storm of guilt. Every meal with Captain Jaggery became unbearable, his civility a chilling mask for cruelty. The crew's silent stares branded her a traitor, her isolation now complete. Haunted by Zachariah's fate, Charlotte questioned everything she'd believed about right and wrong. The weight of her guilt marked the beginning of her transformation. After Zachariah's death, Charlotte became invisible, a pariah among the crew. The men ignored her, their silence harsher than any words. She avoided Jaggery, who now treated her with cold indifference. Attempts to apologize to the crew were met with stony silence. Her regret changed nothing. Stripped of all approval, Charlotte was forced to look inward for strength. She was no longer Miss Doyle nor a friend to the crew, just Charlotte, utterly alone. In this crucible of isolation, she began to forge a new identity. One morning, Charlotte made a quiet rebellion. She donned Zachariah's sailor clothes. She packed away her fine dresses, shedding her old life. On deck, the crew stared in shock. Jaggery was furious, demanding she change back. For the first time, Charlotte refused asking to work as a crew member in Zachariah's place. Jaggery, seeing a chance to humiliate her, agreed she would be Mr. Doyle, subject to the same harsh discipline. The crew watched, uncertain Charlotte's transformation had begun. She was no longer just a passenger, she was challenging the very order of the ship. Jaggery's first test was brutal. He ordered Charlotte to climb the highest mast. The crew watched, expecting her to fail. Terrified, Charlotte climbed anyway, her hands raw, her body trembling. She thought of Zachariah, of her guilt, and pushed through the pain. Reaching the top, she looked down, no longer a frightened girl, but a sailor. The crew erupted in cheers, their respect hard-won. Charlotte had done the impossible, breaking free from her isolation. She was now truly part of the Seahawk. Charlotte's climb changed everything. The crew began to teach her, accepting her as Mr. Doyle. The work was grueling, but she endured, earning her place among them. Jaggery tried to break her with harder tasks, but she only grew stronger. Through shared hardship, Charlotte found a new family and a sense of belonging. The pampered girl was gone. In her place stood a resilient sailor. At last, Charlotte had found her true home. The peace was short-lived. The sky darkened, the sea grew agitated, and the wind howled. A hurricane was bearing down on them. There was no outrunning it, only survival. Captain Jaggery barked orders and all hands prepared for the storm. This was a battle against nature's full power. Massive waves crashed over the bow. The storm hit with terrifying force, a screaming chaos of wind and water. The ship was tossed violently. It was a fight for survival. All previous conflicts faded, replaced by a shared instinct to live. Charlotte did her part, her fear fueling her. There was only the present moment and the will to endure. In the hurricane's fury, the foreyard sail tore loose, threatening to cripple the ship. Someone had to climb into the gale and cut the sail free. It was a suicide mission. No one wanted to go. Captain Jaggery screamed for a volunteer. He ordered Mr. Hollybrass to climb, but he refused. Charlotte saw her chance and volunteered. She scrambled into the rigging. The climb was a nightmare. As she reached the sail, Zachariah appeared. He was real. The crew had hidden him. They worked together, slashing at the ropes. As the canvas tore free, the ship lurched. Charlotte lost her grip, held only by Zachariah's hand. He pulled her back from the brink. The hurricane broke, leaving the Seahawk battered. But the calm was shattered by a horrifying discovery. Mr. Hollybrass, the first mate, was dead, a knife in his back. It was murder. Charlotte recognized the weapon. It was her dirk. All eyes turned to her. Captain Jaggery seized the opportunity, accusing Charlotte of the murder. He painted her as a vengeful creature who brought chaos. Charlotte was trapped. How could she prove her innocence? She was arrested and dragged to the ship's brig. Her transformation was complete, from lady to sailor to accused murderer. Locked away in the brig, Charlotte was plunged into darkness and despair. The foul-smelling space was filled with rats and the groaning of the ship's hull. Alone with her fear, the weight of her situation crashed down on her. She was a prisoner, accused of a crime she did not commit, and her fate rested in Captain Jaggery's hands. It all felt like a perfectly constructed trap. Captain Jaggery had won, isolating her and framing her for murder. Charlotte realized he would not grant her a fair trial. He would be her judge, jury, and executioner. If she was to survive, she had to find the strength within herself to face the captain not as a victim, but as a fighter. Just as despair consumed her, a scratching sound broke the silence. A panel slid open and Zachariah appeared, alive but worried. The crew had hidden him, nursing him back to health. Seeing him was like seeing a ghost. Hope ignited within Charlotte. She was no longer alone. Zachariah confessed he'd seen Jaggery arguing with Mr. Hollybrass during the storm. Hollybrass threatened to expose Jaggery's cruelty and sailing into the hurricane. Jaggery seized Charlotte's dirk and stabbed Hollybrass. He framed Charlotte to silence her. Zachariah was the only witness, and Jaggery would kill him to silence him. Together, they formed a plan: expose Jaggery before the crew. They would use Charlotte's trial as their stage, with Zachariah revealed at the critical moment. Their alliance was their only hope for justice and survival. The final battle was about to begin. Captain Jaggery assembled the crew to witness Charlotte's trial. He stood tall, with the ship's articles laid out before him. The sky mirrored the grim faces of the sailors. Charlotte was marched out of the brig, her expression set with resolve. Jaggery began, laying out the case against her. He presented her dirk as the murder weapon. He twisted her courage into aggression. Charlotte recounted the events of the storm. She admitted the knife was hers, then began to ask questions. She asked who had the most to gain from Mr. Hollybrass's death. Jaggery found her guilty and sentenced her to be hanged at dawn. A gasp went through the crew. He believed he had won, but Charlotte and Zachariah's plan was not yet complete. As the captain pronounced her sentence, Charlotte played her final card. She declared that there was another witness. Jaggery laughed, mocking her desperation, but his laughter died in his throat as a figure emerged from the forecastle, stepping into the stunned silence of the crew. It was Zachariah, alive and standing tall. The crew stared in disbelief, as if they had seen a ghost. Zachariah pointed a trembling but steady finger at the captain, and in a clear voice, told everyone what he had seen. He described the argument, the flash of rage in the captain's eyes, and the moment Jaggery plunged the dirk into Hollybrass's back. The truth was finally out in the open. The crew was thrown into chaos. They looked from Zachariah to the captain, their faces a whirlwind of confusion, fear, and dawning realization. Jaggery, for the first time, lost his composure. His mask of civility shattered, revealing the raging monster beneath. He screamed that Zachariah was a liar, that this was all a mutinous plot. He pulled out his pistol, his eyes wild, and lunged for Zachariah. But the crew, their loyalty finally broken, moved to protect the old sailor. Seeing he had lost control of his men, Jaggery turned his fury on Charlotte, blaming her for everything. He chased her across the deck, his face contorted with hate, promising to kill her himself. Charlotte fled, not in terror, but with purpose. She ran towards the bow of the ship, scrambling out onto the long, narrow bowsprit that extended over the churning sea, with the Seahawk's figurehead just below. Jaggery followed, his boots slipping on the wet wood. The ship, caught in a sudden swell, tilted violently to one side. Jaggery lost his footing. For a moment he dangled precariously, his hands scrabbling for a hold. He looked up at Charlotte, his eyes wide with a final, desperate plea. But there was nothing she could do. He lost his grip and fell, his scream swallowed by the waves as he plunged into the ocean. In a moment of poetic justice, his falling body struck the carved figurehead of the Seahawk, the symbol of his own authority, before disappearing into the depths. A stunned silence fell over the deck. The tyrant was gone. The final battle was over, not won by a mutiny's violence, but by the courage of a girl who dared to speak the truth and a friend who returned from the dead to support her. The crew looked at Charlotte, no longer as a prisoner or a spy, but as their liberator. The storm had finally passed, and a new uncertain dawn was breaking over the Seahawk. With Jaggery gone, a calm settled over the Seahawk. The crew looked to Charlotte, who had faced down Jaggery. They gathered, and Fisk offered her the captaincy. The offer was staggering, but standing there, it felt possible. For a moment she considered it, picturing herself at the helm. But Charlotte's journey had taught her about justice and leadership. She looked at the crew, then at Zachariah. The captaincy was not her role. She respectfully declined, saying there was a better man. She handed the logbook to Zachariah, declaring him their captain. A cheer went up. Zachariah accepted the command. A new era had begun, built on respect. Charlotte had not taken command of the ship, but of her own values. The Seahawk sailed into Providence, Rhode Island. For Charlotte, it was a return to a world that no longer felt like home. Her family was waiting, their faces etched with shock and disapproval. They saw not a brave survivor, but a disheveled, unruly child. Back in her family's grand house, the rules closed in around her like a cage. Her father dismissed her journal as a feverish tale. The ultimate betrayal came when her father threw her journal into the fire, erasing her truth. She was once again an outcast in her own home. She would stare out her window at the distant harbor, her heart aching for the sea. She had sailed across an ocean to find her truth, only to have it destroyed by the very people who were supposed to love her. Charlotte did not remain a prisoner for long. The girl who had climbed a 130-foot mast in a gale was not going to be defeated by a locked door and her father's disapproval. She had learned that home is not a place you are given, but a place you choose. She had learned that family is not always about blood, but about the people who see you for who you truly are. The Seahawk was her home. The crew was her family. She knew what she had to do. The choice was not difficult. It was the only choice that felt true. She would not live the lie her father tried to force upon her. One night, under the cover of darkness, she made her escape. It was the 8th of September. She packed a small bag, put on the sailor's clothes she had hidden away, and slipped out of her window. She crept through the silent streets of Providence, her heart not with fear, but with a thrilling sense of purpose. She was moving toward her life, not away from it. The journey through the sleeping town was a final walk away from her past, from the expectations and restrictions that had almost smothered her spirit. Every step brought her closer to the sea, closer to freedom, closer to herself. She arrived at the docks as the first light of dawn was painting the sky. There, she saw it, the familiar, comforting silhouette of the Seahawk, preparing to set sail on the morning tide. She ran to the ship, and as she climbed aboard, a cheer went up from the sailors who were on deck. They had been waiting for her. Zachariah, now Captain Zachariah, greeted her with a warm, knowing smile. He had suspected she would not be able to stay away. He welcomed her aboard not as a passenger, but as a member of the crew, a valued part of their family. She was finally truly home. Standing tall on the deck of the Seahawk, with the wind in her hair and the promise of a new horizon before her, Charlotte Doyle found her peace. She had learned the most important lesson of all, that you must choose your own truth and set your own wind. Her journey was not just across an ocean, but into the depths of her own soul. It is a story that reminds us all that our true path is not always the one that is laid out for us. Sometimes we must have the courage to escape, to return to the place where we belong, and to sail toward the person we are meant to be.